Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, where we spotlight the professionals making a real impact on the quality of life for our active duty military and their families. Hosted by John Prue, whether you're an MWR professional, a service member, a partner organization, or just curious about military recreation, you are in the right place. In this episode, we're joined by two incredible guests from Army Family Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. JJ Love, Chief of Business and Recreation, and Joe Cavanagh, Chief of Sports, Fitness, and Aquatics. Together, they bring decades of experience and leadership as we explore how Army MWR is driving readiness, resilience, and innovation across installations worldwide. This is On the Front Line, powered by DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in.
All right, it is 13:30 on Tuesday, 10 February 2026, and you are on the front line. My name is John Prue. As the host of this weekly podcast focused on armed forces or military recreation, we talk to professionals in the industry who are in some way making a difference in the quality of life of our military and their families. For all of you out there, you might be an MWR or morale, welfare, and recreation professional who's directly supporting quality of life for our military and families each and every day. Maybe you are or have been in the military and a user of MWR programs and services at some point, and we thank you for your service. Perhaps you're from a business or organization which directly supports or wants to support our armed forces recreation professionals around the globe. You might be a public parks and recreation professional, curious about that thing called military recreation and what it's all about. Or perhaps you don't fit into any of those categories and you just tuned in. Either way, welcome. Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. All right, we're part of an amazing media company called Daily Parks and Rec Show, or DPRS. DPRS Media exists to honor those the park and recreation community, reflecting on those stories, highlighting the careers, and celebrating the real pros out there doing the essential work in our communities, including military communities. I want to give a shout out to our producer today, Jovi. She's the one that is working the transitions behind the scenes, trying to make us look good, and trying to make me look good is a chore. So thank you for your efforts, Jovi, today as our producer. Before we get rolling, I also want to thank our founder of DPRS Media, Craig LeBlanc. He's the one that put these series of shows together in DPRS Media, and he's the one giving us the opportunity to host this weekly podcast focused on all things military recreation. So thanks, Craig. All right, today's show sponsor is Outdoor Link. I would like to give a special shout out to Outdoor Link, who has been one of the earliest supporters of the Daily Park and Rec Show since the beginning. If you want to be able to turn your entire city on and off with a swipe of a finger on an app, this is what Outdoor Link does. Outdoor Link builds smart cities, connecting your park lights, splash pads, fountains, bathroom door locks, or anything powered by electricity into a simple app on your phone, iPad, desktop, anything that can be controlled from any location 24/7, 365 days a year. If you'd like to learn more about Outdoor Link, tune in to the Smart Park Future show. Smart Park Future Show, let me say that again, make sure I get it right, on the second and fourth Monday each month at 1:30 Eastern Time. So thank you to them. We're also going to see a short spot on JDP Services Management Consulting, which is near and dear to my heart. So Joby, go ahead and play the spots.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. And even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right, welcome back. Before we get going here today, we'd like to promote what's going on in the Armed Forces Recreation Network, which is part of NRPA. I've been very involved for many years with them, and they've got a great leadership team there. So, Jovi, if you can bring up the slides, we want to highlight some of the really cool things that are happening, and we'll show you some links, but they have a social media channel, both on LinkedIn, but a lot of it comes from Facebook, and there are over 150 posts. I believe we had 159 posts or reposts in the last 28 days on there. So constantly people are promoting all the cool events that are happening, the boots on the ground, doing the real stuff and taking care of our military and families out there. So first of all, the first slide here is Super Bowl watch parties. Plenty of them out there. Just to name a few that were on here. And again, this is a smattering of pictures from various locations, but watch parties were posted up on the Facebook site from Naval Air Station, Whidbey Island. Go Seattle Seahawks. They had to be happy. Kind of a hometown installation. Naval Station Mayport, Fort Polk, Fort Rucker, MWR Gaeta in Italy, which is a detachment for Naples, Italy, over there. That's great. Navy MWR Okinawa, Naval Station Great Lakes, Tory MWR, I think part of the Army program in Okinawa, Fort McCoy, Fort Riley, JBLM or Lewis McChord, another hometown or home installation team for the Seahawks. I'm sure they were pretty happy for their watch party. Naval Air Facility at Sugi, Japan. And then we also had something from Naval Support Activity, Port Smith, Virginia. So lots of watch parties, lots of cool things happening across the board. Also want to point out, and the words got cut off on this part, but Armed Forces Entertainment did the Pro Blitz 2026 tour. They were out at 16 different locations around the globe, taking care of our families that are overseas in various locations. So really great tour. Again, AFE, I think, runs kind of under the Air Force, but it's its own entity. providing entertainment across the globe, doing great things. I think, like I said, 16 different locations, and they're doing some more cool stuff right after this. Was talking to some of their staff, and the crazy wild schedule they have, taking care and entertaining our folks is absolutely wonderful. Okay, we also have some polar plunges that were out here. I'm demonstrating one here. Fort Sill did a polar run, so it was actually a run that had them run through looks like a little lake that they had on base. Looked a little chilly, but down below and off to the right, you see Naval Station Great Lakes Polar Plunge, and I'm very familiar with this. Spent some time up at Great Lakes, a lot of years, 34 years, so pretty familiar with this event. And if you see the little white on the outside of where they're jumping, that is literally a harbor in Lake Michigan that is iced over. They literally carve out an area of open water for them to jump. They've got special divers in there for protection and safety. It's a crazy event, and I will say, of all the polar plunges, and I saw lots of pictures of them, Great Lakes kind of has it on most of them. I'm not sure if base Kodiak up there through the Coast Guard does something differently, but anyways, I'll take Great Lakes Polar Plunge out there. But lots of cool stuff on the Facebook page and LinkedIn, sharing these cool programs. So something worth checking out. We want to give a shout out. We said we were going to honor him all month, but 30 under 30, NRPA's recognition to our young professionals. Joshua Scott from Fort Carson, recreation assistant out there, former active duty guy, has been selected. So as an Armed Forces recreation professional, we certainly are honoring him. So again, kudos, and you've got another couple weeks. We're going to keep throwing your slide up there, Joshua. So keep up the good work and congrats. Just a reminder for those out there that are either a public parks and recreation agency, or if you're a military base looking to submit for the gold medal, March 13th is the deadline. www.aapra.org is the website, has tons of information and resources. We talked about it a little bit with the Fort Carson folks last week, but March 13th. So still got time if you want to get that nomination in for the most prestigious award in our industry. Okay, and I want to talk about Armed Forces Recreation Network. They've actually got a meeting tomorrow. It is the second Wednesday coming up, so at 12 Eastern. And there's the QR codes out there. I'll leave them up on the screen. And then also, if you want to join our Facebook group or LinkedIn, if you are at all tied to the industry and you ask to join either our Facebook or LinkedIn group, you will get accepted and join in, and you'll be able to see these really cool programs. So feel free to do that. And then for the meeting, all you got to do is go here. It goes to NRPA. You register for the meeting, and you'll get the link for tomorrow's 12 o'clock meeting. And they're going to talk about a lot of cool things going on there. So the leadership team for the AFRN is really, really good stuff. So they're doing good things and have a great direction for this year. So please check it out. You can bring that back down. All right. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes of our show. So first of all, I want to introduce our guests. So Jovi, if you want to bring them up on screen. I think everybody's here. Oh, perfect. There they are. Hey, guys. All right. This week, super excited. We have the leadership from the Army Family Morale, Welfare, and Recreation team on board. First of all, Mr. J.J. Love, Chief, Business, Recreation Division, Army Installation Management Command. And then secondly, we have Joe Cavanagh, Chief, Sports and Fitness and Aquatics Branch at IMCOM. So great to have you guys on board. Really want to talk everything and anything family, morale, welfare, and recreation. So, first of all, JJ, I was reading your bio and I didn't realize you had such a storied active duty career as well. Pretty interesting stuff. But why don't you tell us about your journey from there to your current position with IMCOM?
Thanks, John. Happy to be here. Great to be here and join you all on this. Yeah, I had a 30-year career. Very varied. I was an armor officer by trade, and I set out as the Army career to command a battalion. I was able to do that. Commanded in Iraq, and then anything after that was gravy. I was fortunate to get picked up for Garrison Command at Fort Jackson, which was probably one of the most rewarding jobs I've had in the Army. I mean, it's as my wife said, great. Now you get to fix all the things you've been complaining for 5 years. And there's something true to that. But that got me really starting to look at MWR, and I had a great MWR team at Fort Jackson. Was able to go to 3 Corps and was the chief of staff there, and then came down here to installation management command where I was the deputy when we had a military deputy here in G9. Retired out of here, worked in the contracting world for a while, and then an opportunity to come back as chief of business. I did that for a year, and then we made a business decision to merge business and rec. And so since 2019, I've been both the business and the recreation chief here. So great to continue to serve. Really, that's really it's nice, to go out in the civilian world and do all that. But really, at the end of the day, it's all about serving soldiers and families. So I'm very fortunate to have had some really great opportunities along the way.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's a great career, and you've seen it from the active duty side and being a leader in that side, and then all those things you probably complained about, you got a chance to see it from a different perspective. But that's good stuff. Joe, another interesting career as I was reading through your bio as well. But tell us about your journey.
Mine began a little over 35 years ago. Everybody seems to start off as a lifeguard, making that little bit of money to, one thing leads to another. But I got to tell you, my goal was to be a police officer or chief of police down the road. But one thing led to another. And I got involved in, sports at an early age with my dad being in the Army and running services. And then I got mixed up in the recreation and community support. And I've been fortunate enough with a lot of men, from outdoor maintenance to sports director positions, teen center director, CYS coordinator, deputy chief of community recreation. And then when we were doing BRAC, as you guys are aware, over here at Fort Sam Houston, that was coming under the Air Force. So I had to look for another position because I wanted to stay Army. I wanted to stay green. Still wanted to provide all my expertise to the Army side. And I was fortunate enough to get a job at Central Region to focus on sports, fitness, and aquatics. Then we had some transformation and the headquarters up here at IMCOM. So I came over here, and Mr. Love was kind enough to allow me to have my dream job of being the chief of Army sports, fitness, and aquatics. And I'll tell you what, John, I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I'm a product of the system. And I can tell you this MWR stabilizes the families, and it, strengthens the soldiers. And it builds all these resilient communities. And it helps make the Army run all the way around. So that's kind of my path.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're going to talk more about resiliency here in a little bit. But I also noticed on your bio, you are the vice president of the International Association for Basketball Officials. Tell me about that. That caught my curiosity.
Well, I used to be in officiating big time, especially basketball. So back in the day, I was the vice president of the International Basketball Officials Association here in San Antonio, which included training the officials, running the boards, coordinating, all the school assignments for the officials, which was a great training as I was getting into some of the stuff that I'm doing now. So something I miss, and I'm currently not doing it, but as I get closer to the end of my career, I'll probably get back involved in that.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and we've got a youth sports mastery show that's a part of the DPRS network, and we've had lots of discussions across the services, in the services, about officiating in general. It's a tough go. That median age of our referees and sports
Yep.
officials are, getting up there, and who's the next generation, and it's so vitally important. So again, a whole podcast in itself, right?
It is.
Hey, before we leave this topic, and I think it's perfect, I like to ask this question, but I think it's timely to do it now after you talked about your journeys. What's the proudest moment you've had as a family morale, welfare, and recreation professional in your career? And Joe, we'll keep it with you. What's your proudest moment?
I think when we were working with the adaptive sports program at Fort Sam Houston, when that was coming on board with a lot of our soldiers that were returning back from the Middle East, and able to coordinate a program called MASPRO, Military Adaptive Sports Program, with the Intrepid Center, which was a partnership of MWR and the Intrepid Center to deliver the intramural programs to those soldiers otherwise couldn't participate in the intramural program that we had. So we adapted that to meet their needs. That's one of my proudest and most memorable moments in MWR.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, our adaptive sports program in the military, through the Wounded Warrior programs of each service, calls it something differently, but I had a chance to work with the DoD Warrior Games in 2017 when they were up in Chicago, so got roped into that. But that was a great experience. Really got to explore that, and so important what those wounded warriors are going through, and the healing power of
Yep.
sports, and the families, and supporting those families that support them as well. So, JJ, how about you? Proudest moment within your civilian FMWR career?
Yeah, I think, John, it one of the benefits, I guess, of this job is that, like Joe talked about a little bit, we happen to own sports at echelon here. So everything from intramurals, the All Army. The Army is the executive agent for Armed Forces Sports. So Armed Forces Sports sits here, and then we've got WCAP. So really, the WCAP piece, going to the 2016 Olympics and watching our first medal, the first medal that we've had as a country in the 5,000 meters in like 50 years, when Paul Chelimo got silver, was pretty special. I mean, a soldier in an MWR program, doing it for his country, doing it for his Army, doing it for everyone that's there. That to me is pretty cool. And then getting a chance to be a part, of the Great Olympics. And we've done really we've focused on not just putting soldiers in the Olympics, which is important because it gives me opportunity, but actual producing results. And we've had great results, and we've got 9 soldiers right now competing in the winter, with a couple with really good shots at medals. So
are you live from Milan, Italy?
Olympics, I will tell you that once you've been to a couple, it's really all you really want to do. Because for us, logistically, it's a challenge in this Olympics, being in Milan and Cortina, which are separated by, I don't know, 4 hours of not good driving or infrastructure.
Wow.
Challenge for the team. So I elected to stay out of their hair and let them do their thing. They don't need to worry about me. They got enough challenges. The Secretary of the Army was there over the weekend, so they were busy with him, and it was great that he was able to get out and have breakfast with the soldiers and have some interaction with them and see them. And the flag bearer, one of the flag bearers for this year's was Sergeant Del Duca, who is a driver for USA Bobsled #1, and he was elected by his teammates to carry the flag. That's the first time we've had that. If that doesn't make you proud and proud to be a part of this great organization, and I don't know what is. So I'm very fortunate to have a small role in to pursue their Olympic dreams.
That's awesome, and that world-class athlete program you guys run is super awesome, and you can see what's going on. So we're rooting for them. I rarely say go Army, but in this case, go Army, Team USA.
There's a couple Air Force. I think there's a Luger skeleton.
Yeah.
So just, we'll root for every uniform.
You guys have a major presence, so that is awesome. Want to get a kind of an update of what's going on. What are the key initiatives that are happening in your world? And Joe, starting kind of with the fitness, sports, aquatics area, what are some of the initiatives that are happening right now today for family morale, welfare, and recreation?
So what we're focused on right now is standardization, the modernization, readiness outcomes. So one of the initiatives that we're starting to work, John, is what we're calling our accreditation framework for sports, fitness, and aquatics, but that'll also tie into libraries. And what that means is just raising the bar across all the installations, just making sure that the garrison meets, those standards of safety and operations, financial management, the customer satisfaction, the personal readiness. We'll tie it into our Department of War fitness annual assessment. We'll tie it into our baseline standards. We'll tie it into professional education, just to make sure that we're providing that standardization and accreditation across our enterprise for sports. Something else that we're looking at that we just did this time for the first time this year, and we're going to expand on it, is our Army's Commander's Cup program. And it's designed to drive the intramural participation, try to increase that, and just to build a cohesion through the competition. And so right now we're doing that in the 5 sports, and softball, flag football, volleyball, basketball, soccer. And all our garrisons aren't the right size. The installations, they're different sizes. So, we're looking at large, medium, and small for the competitions. And we're going to go ahead and award the winners this year at Fort Bliss, along at the Armed Forces Wrestling Championship this year. Another one that we're going to continue to focus on is our enterprise bulk buy, which is very popular. It helps us with the fitness equipment and standardization and predictable levels of service across the Army, and also some training on that and layouts. And some of the other initiatives that we're working on is the outdoor fitness initiative that we're proud of. We've got a pilot out there at Fort Hood. We'll take a look at the data that comes back, but we have different layouts for different sizes. And then also, John, as you know, the 24/7 unstaffed fitness centers, very popular. So we'll continue to look at the innovation that's out there with the technology, and continue to update our SOPs or policies as we move forward, just to make sure that our patrons are safe in those facilities. And then last is the family fitness rooms. We're working on providing some policies and regulations out there, SOPs, just giving the parents a way to work out while supervising their kids. And everything that I touched on right here, it all leads back to the readiness and accountability. So those are the kind of things that strategically moving forward that we're looking at doing in sports, fitness, and aquatics.
Yeah, all good stuff. And a lot of those things are driven by the DoD or DOW fitness standards, with that. And it's been a challenge 24/7. Great. Navy made a big push the other year for that, and lots of churn with that, but I think it's the right thing to do. It was a major hit with those active duty, and now you just need to make sure you can provide that easy access and provide the safety piece. That's really critical. And it looks like you guys are all over it. I do want to ask, before we jump to JJ, the accreditation piece. So you're kind of getting into that self-internal accreditation, and as you know, the Navy's been doing it for a while, about a decade plus. Did you look at how they do accreditation at all?
We did, John. We're taking a look at the Navy, and I don't recall if you remember Air Force's 5-star program, Eagle program. So we're taking a look at that also to see if there's some things that we can use as we're building this up.
Yeah. And then just, the garrisons, actually, get involved in, what does it mean and how do you live it? Because when there's standards and accreditation, then you kind of need the total team buy-in, or it's tough to make it go. But that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, you got to get all the stakeholders buy-in, and we have a working group with sports, fitness, and aquatics, and we get after all the strategic objectives as we're moving forward to the year. So we're going to meet out at the Health and Fitness Show this year, and we're going to get after this.
Yeah, that's awesome. JJ, from your perspective, broader perspective, what's the big initiatives?
Yeah, Joe's got some great stuff going on, and we've stole a lot of his accreditation standardization pieces he's done and applied them across the rest of the business lines that we have, in the business and rec portfolio. I think from a broader perspective, one of the things, the biggest lift that we're doing right now is we're transitioning to Rec Track 3.1. So that's huge. Getting away from the legacy 10.3, and anytime you're doing what's essentially an ERP, but with a point of sale, it's incredibly challenging. So everything from hosting environment, and I'm learning things like load balancers and all kinds of cloud infrastructure things that I have absolutely no idea. We're moving on with it. Of course, in our point of sale is really two pieces. It's the child and youth management system we call SIMS, which rides on Rec Track, huge piece, and then the Rec Track itself. And so that's ongoing. We've transitioned about a dozen or so garrisons to it, and got a plan to do that throughout the rest of the year. I will tell you that hosting has been a challenge for us as we try to figure out the right place to put it with the right infrastructure and all of that. But that's taken a lot of our time. And of course, all of that's behind it too, right? So you got an accounting system behind you got credit cards, you got all that goes to it. So that's a pretty big lift. I think the other thing too, kind of from a broad perspective that we're looking at, is really getting after our recreation Cat Cs. So, we focus a lot on, at least I do, because I have business and rec, is on the traditional Cat Cs, the golf, the bowling, the food and beverage, which are great and need attention. But we've also got, pet kennels and RV parks and RV storage and rec lodging, marinas, stables, all of those things that really we hadn't had a lot of attention to. We hired an additional program manager to actually get after those things. So we're actually now, getting standardized pet kennels, because a pet kennel is basically like childcare, but for, not for kids, but for pets. So a lot of the same things apply. So how do you make sure that they're accredited and standardized and all of that? Same with storage. I can't build enough storage on our installations. I just can't. Same with RV parks. I can't build enough RV parks to keep up with the demand. It is a huge growing demand. So we're trying to keep up with that, but at the same time, standardize and do all of that stuff as well. So those are kind of two big efforts that we're going after.
Rec lodging, and I've talked to my colleagues in the park and rec world, and nobody really truly understands how many rec lodging locations, collectively across the services around the world that we have, and they're vitally important. Our retiree population, last I looked, is probably bigger than our active duty and family member population. It's a great benefit for them. It's a great benefit for active duty members as well. And it's a great business line. We have property, we have real estate. I don't want to say they're huge, very expensive projects, but for what the bang for the buck, they're great investments on our side, and they're such a benefit to the military and their families.
I think we've got almost 6,000 rooms in inventory. That's a lot of lodging.
Yeah. Cabins, cottages, RV spots. Yeah.
The yurt all the way up to a 6-bedroom high-end cabin, and so managing all, trying to figure out the right property management system, tying it to reservation system, it's something that needs a lot of attention, and we've been focused a lot on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just out of curiosity, JJ, do you manage directly out of IMCOM the Armed Forces Recreation Centers, those resorts around the world?
We do. The Army is the executive agent for the Armed Forces Recreation. Yep. So the four that we have: Edelweiss in Germany, which is in Garmisch, Shades of Green, which is on property on Disney. It's kind of right across the street from their kitty corner from the Grand Floridian there, down on that end of Disney.
Yeah.
And then you got Halikoa, which is right on Waikiki. We've got 25 acres of beachfront property right on Waikiki. And then Dragon Hill, which is in Korea, in Seoul. So the Army executive, that's a separate division that I couldn't even imagine trying.
Oh, it's separated. Okay, yeah. I've been to 3 of those. They're great locations, and if you're in the DoD or DOW, you have a great benefit. Those resorts are based on how much you make, depending on your rate or rank or civilian status, and very fairly priced. So great opportunity.
And for
Hidden.
just paid plug, if you do stay at Shades of Green, you get all the benefits of staying on property. You get extended hours, you get shuttles to and from the park, you get all the benefits that you would if you stayed at a Disney property.
Discounts on golf?
This golf, they do run a special golf course. Now we don't own the golf course, and Disney doesn't even own that golf. But they do offer, like I think it's a 9-hole Twilight rental and all that for, I don't know, $30 or $40. It's I don't know, don't quote me on that, but it's a good deal for if you want to go over and sneak 9 holes in.
Yeah, you had me at golf. So, hey guys, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come right back and get into more of the conversation. Okay. Joby, go ahead.
Before the game, before the lights, before the pressure, there's a moment most people never see. Welcome to The Athlete's Commute, a podcast distributed by DPRS Media Network, co-produced by Her Sports, and hosted by Jordan Ziff. Each episode, Jordan gets behind the wheel, driving athletes to practice, to training, to game day, while getting to know who they really are beyond the jersey. The mindset, the grind, the sacrifices, the moments no one talks about. No scripts, no filters, just real conversations in real motion. Because every athlete has a journey, and every journey deserves to be heard. This is The Athlete's Commute. Buckle up.
On the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we bring you the real stories of tomorrow's professionals, people shaping the future, one idea at a time. Meet the very first DPRS interns to officially host their own segment, Aidan Tierney and Michael Morrow. With curiosity, passion, and a fresh perspective, they're stepping into the spotlight to lead meaningful conversations with today's rising leaders. The Young Professionals Network takes you inside the journeys, challenges, and major wins of young individuals making their mark across industries. From first jobs to bold ventures, every story fuels growth, ambition, and innovation. Each episode brings real conversations, fresh perspectives, and impactful insights created to motivate the next generation of professionals. Whether you're just starting out, exploring new paths, or figuring out your next move. Tune in to the Young Professionals Network every Thursday at 5 p.m. only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Don't miss it, because your next big idea might be one story away.
All right, welcome back, guys. All right, I guess this is for both of you, but we'll start with JJ. Especially with your career in the Army as a officer and a leader, what does family morale, welfare, and recreation mean to a soldier, their family member? What do you think it means? Is it important? Is it we all work in this field, some of us always civilian for 40 years, and you wonder, are you making a difference? Does it really matter? And so, yeah, I'd love to get your perspective. And Joe, if you want to chime in after, but JJ, what do you think? Does it make a difference? What does it mean to a soldier, FMWR?
Yeah, it does make a difference. And I think it means different things to different people. And it's all about opportunities, right? And getting the opportunity to connect, to connect with your family, to connect with other soldiers. And it also is a great pillar of readiness. I mean, everything we do supports readiness, be it childcare. I mean, because if you don't have somewhere to take care of your kids, if you don't know that your kids are being taken care of, that's a problem. I think something along the lines of, when I was at Fort Jackson, 25 to 30% of our drill instructors were single parents. Think about that. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Drill sergeants they're not on the job 9 to 5. They're on the job in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. So how do you take care of those kids to make sure that the soldiers can do their jobs? Readiness in terms of, we have 240 some fitness centers out there that directly relate to readiness, because it's an opportunity for them to improve their fitness, but also just the ability to relax and reconnect and do stuff with your off time, be it as a unit or as a soldier. And we've tailored a lot of programs to get after those resiliency. Our Warrior Adventure Quest, which was originally designed for soldiers coming off a deployment and trying to replicate that high adrenaline to get after risk reduction and accident reduction, that actually worked. Well, we're not as deployed anymore, but you know what? That program still is a fantastic team building, unit cohesion, because it's unit led. It's down at the platoon level. It's at that basic core element for us in the Army, which is squad, platoon. And that's a great example. There are many other examples, but I think it's all about providing soldiers and their families with options that allow them to relax, to reconnect, and ultimately to become ready and fit and better soldiers.
Yeah. You guys have another program. I mean, all the services are charged to take care of our single service members. That's a very, if you want to use high risk, but that's a core group and that we need to take care of. You guys have a program called BOSS, which is structured a little bit different than some of the other services, but again, focuses on that single service member. Can you tell me a little bit about that, BOSS?
Yeah. Program really has grown, and we look at it in three real pillars. The one of the most exciting things we've done is gone after what we call life skills. So we find a lot of soldiers come into the Army and they don't know how to do basic stuff like well, why are all the washing and dryers broke in the barracks? Because they don't know how to do their freaking laundry. They don't know how to do laundry. They don't know how to cook a meal. They don't know how to fix a tire. They don't know basic stuff. So we've been fortunate to get some funding from OSD, and we've structured it. And again, it's unit led. They come up with the ideas. The local BOSS community, the local BOSS organization comes up with the ideas and things that they want to do for life. But they also do community service. They give back. They do a volunteer at outside the gate and do a lot of the local volunteering. And so we've built a program that really is designed to take care of single soldiers, give them a voice. It's really a commander's program. I mean, if you look in our regulation where it sits in AR 620, which is the Army command policy. And so it's a commander's program, in that, we've built a triad of the garrison command sergeant major and the BOSS advisor and the BOSS president. Those three really form the voice of the soldier that they can take back up to leadership, from the soldiers to the garrison commander, so they can fix a lot of the quality of life issues that they have, but also other issues that come up. So really a great program. We're very fortunate to have I'm fortunate to have a BOSS, a Department of the Army BOSS president. We just promoted her sergeant first class on Friday. So you talk about a great way to end a week and promote a soldier to E7. That's a good deal. But she's done great work for us, as have our other BOSS presidents. But just having her able to get out and around and teach, coach, and mentor other soldiers, and see kind of at the pointing of the spear what issues they're having, and then even just bringing them back to my level and being able to address them is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I've always been impressed with the BOSS program from afar, and the way you just interconnect, and those life skills, so true. And it's amazing. You need to hire a bunch of moms and make sure they're there to coach and mentor. It's kind of on the same token, Joe, but I'm going to offshoot of this. What does FMWR mean? But resiliency. I was telling you guys earlier when we just chatted about doing this episode, that's a word that's used a lot, but I've known it's been around for 15 years, and the Army drove that word of using resiliency. So kind of on that note, what does resiliency really mean when we're talking about the MWR world? What does resiliency mean?
John, resiliency, I think it's a precursor to readiness. So, MWR is, in our world, is a real meaning. So you're touching on the psychological, the social, the physical, and all the, that builds that community strength. And you look at all the programs that we have, and I always talk about that game, the Jenga tower. And you think about, all the programs that have a piece of that block, whether it's fitness, whether it's childcare, youth programs, ACS, and of course, sports and recreation. If you start to remove too many of the blocks, the tower becomes unstable. And if you have a weak MWR, then, the soldiers and families aren't going to be better equipped to handle that stress or maintain stability. And, it's all about assisting them to stay mission ready. And, just being a readiness multiplier. And I'll tell you, John, I've been a product of this system. I've seen it firsthand as a youth with my family, and the impact that MWR has had firsthand with my family. The only thing I know is growing up through the Army and participating in the youth programs, whether it was ACS, the special events, being a gym rat, sneaking into the gyms when I wasn't of age to participate with that, going to the bowling centers. So, MWR, if MWR is strong, I think our soldiers and families remain strong, and they're better equipped to handle all the stress.
Sneaking into those gyms, I see JJ taking notes right there. There's no statute of limitations on that. So
different army.
What's that?
Hey, the other thing too on resiliency, and for those of us that are in this world, we understand it. But the moving from duty station to duty station to different bases around the world, you need to be resilient. And a lot of the services we provide, along with everything that kind of falls under that quality of life umbrella, is important to be able to support them, because that's a tough life. That's a tough life to bounce from one place to the next, make new friends, and yet be there to support your active duty members so they can focus on the mission, all that good stuff. So I'm preaching to the choir here. So let's turn the tide a little bit and talk about NRPA, National Recreation Park Association. You guys have been active, very active, supportive members. Joe, you're a service rep on the Armed Forces Recreation Network. I've had a chance to work with both you guys through that association for a number of years. What does NRPA do? What's that connection that really helps those folks out in the field do their job? How are you guys tied and committed to NRPA?
John, every year we take an enterprise approach to paying for the NRPA memberships for our enterprise. Yeah. And that's over 600 of our Army recreation professionals that are out there. And it helps us stay with the trends, what the customers' preferences are, all the innovative tools that NRPA has on their website, and then the talent management perspective, attending the NRPA conferences. And we have our talent management booth to get the word out on what we're doing in Army MWR, trying to build that bench in the many career fields that we offer, trying to bring in that fresh talent, and all the innovative tools. And then the Armed Forces Recreation Network, as you know, we got Chris Remillard, who's the current president, that's kind of guiding that right now. So it's an awesome, dedicated military network, and it gets all the professionals out there. A great tool and a great resource with NRPA. And John, I think we've been associated with NRPA as long as I can remember. Like I said, I've been doing this 35 years, and it's always been around as long as I can remember. So.
Yeah, I've been tied to this organization, not only NRPA, but the AFRN for many, many years. And yeah, it has strong contingent. It has its ups and downs, but for the most part, it's been solid. It provides that stable baseline. And as I've always said, and I'm on the board of directors for NRPA, I said, you offer a network that we can't offer within our own DOW structure. Yeah, sure, there's working groups, and we get across the services at certain levels, certain topics, but collectively to get the mid-level managers and programmers out there together, if it wasn't for that network, it probably wouldn't happen. So that's what I think is cool and kind of organic about NRPA and AFRN. JJ, any thoughts on NRPA from your perspective?
Well, yeah, you mean you hit on it, John. I mean, everyone thinks, well, I get to go to the NRPA conference, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, you get, access to Universal in Orlando. But really, that's just a culmination of a year's worth of effort. Because, like you said, I don't know how many times I'll be looking at a problem and I'll be like, what do I do? And I'll yell out to Joe, who's kind of across the way, and go, Joe. And I'll say, hey, we got this problem. Get a hold of NRPA or get a hold of AFRN. I bet they've got a solution for this. And, 99 times out of 100, that someone has already come across the problem that we're facing or the challenge that we're facing and has an answer for it. So the network is crazy, and the professional development opportunities. And then, we've really pushed our folks to take part in the gold medal, because I think it's a great recognition of the fantastic work that we're doing out there. And, we happen to have a winner this year in Fort Carson and the things that they did. And I'm just very proud of them for doing that. But we couldn't have done it without, you couldn't get there without access to NRPA and all of the resources that they have. So it is a small investment that has a huge return for us in terms of the professional development and the networking and the ideas and the idea sharing and everything that goes on both in NRPA and AFRN. So we're huge fans, and we'll continue to be big supporters and big believers in what NRPA offers for the Army and for the military services writ large.
Yeah, no, and they've got so many individual credentialing programs, whether it's certified playground safety inspector or the AFO program for aquatics. I mean, they provide that credentialing service. One of the things, and you guys within the Army have been pretty in tune with, is CAPRA, is the formal accreditation program. Is that still supported from your headquarters perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've had some garrisons start to go through it and start the process. And we're like, yep, whatever you need, we're behind you 100%. It's a journey, but it's well worth it. And we absolutely push it and support it, and really strive to get after that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a CAPRA visitor this year, and they surprisingly said, "Hey, you're going to Fort Riley." So we're in the process of reviewing. So we'll keep it at that. I can't discuss it any further. But no, you guys have had a great program, and a lot of individuals who represent the military on the CAPRA Commission and various other things. So that's good stuff. Joe, let's get back to you. You were talking about the talent, for lack of a better word, recruiting strategy you've used for NRPA, but have noticed some really cool things that you guys are putting out, and a real cool strategy on going after. I've seen it on the social media through LinkedIn and various other things. So can you tell me about that strategy for getting new blood into the system?
So probably about over a year ago, they hired a talent manager for the cell up here. So she's working on a recruitment initiative through each of the divisions here. And so JJ has tasked me with identifying which schools that we can go out there associated with a large garrison or in a medium garrison to make that connection. And basically, John, is to go out there and let them know what does MWR have to offer, but specifically within recreation, sports, fitness, and aquatics, in the recreation center, in the whole field of recreation management. What does that look like in growing the bench, and just finding the talent out there and letting them know this is what we have available for career opportunities in MWR, specifically with recreation. And we'll continue to focus on this. Today, I was just on the phone with the University of North Carolina, with Greensboro. We're going to go ahead and put some dates together so I can get out there and talk to some of the students out there and have a setup and let them know what we have going on. And that'll, in conjunction with Fort Bragg, and then I'll refocus to Fort Campbell. But this will all tie into what we're currently doing with NRPA in that booth that we've done for the last several years. I think it's 3 or 4 now. this will all tie in together on what we're trying to get after for the talent as we move forward. As you know, John, a lot of us aren't going to be around for so long. So we want to make sure that we're putting the right folks in the right seat.
Yeah, no, that's a good plan, and you guys are doing a good job. Caught my attention as I'm on social media. JJ.
Yeah, well, the other thing too, John, that we've done with that is kind of also taken from NRPA and AFRN is developing career maps for our recreation specialists. But it's primarily recreation. We haven't done it on the business side yet, but on the rec side, Joe's developed an entire guide. Like, hey, you want to make this a career? Here's where you can go. Here's all the things you need to do. Here's the certifications. Here's the plan. And so it's really, our talent management is really more than just recruitment. I mean, recruitment is the easy thing to do, right? Because we want to make it look, if you've ever been on USA Jobs, it's not the greatest experience in the world, let's be honest, right? And so how do we remove those barriers to entry, right? And so how do we get after that? But then once we get them, once we acquire the talent, how do we hold on to them? How do we grow them? How do we
retention? Yeah.
How do we get them to be the Joe Cavanaghs and the John Prues of the world when they're starting out as a rec specialist or a new management, brand new into management? How do we get them there and really giving them something to focus on? So that the piece about acquiring the talent is big, but also developing it is also huge. Because to Joe's point, and we talk about building the bench, but it's really more of developing a bench. Just build it, because you build it through through quantity, but now you got to get some quality in there, and then how do you really develop it? And I think that's as big of approach as is to the recruitment piece.
Yeah, and I know I sent you out the link between the American Academy for Park and Recreation Administration and NRPA. We've been working on a career choice and career development program. So linking up kind of what you guys are getting into, plus some of the work we've done, I think makes total sense. So stand by, we'll talk more. Real quickly, because I do have one other thing I want to talk about, but I get hit up all the time because I do some of these university talks on behalf of AFRN. I've been doing them for years. Internships. Is there an internship from a college perspective? Not that that's the end all be all, but do you guys have a formalized program, or is that up to the garrison level to determine if they do internships?
We don't have one at the enterprise level. We wish we could. We just haven't been able to figure out how to do it, legally. It's tough.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Fort Riley. Fort Riley has a partnership with University of Kansas.
Yeah.
Where they have kind of an informal internship that they work. That's great. And we encourage more of that. In fact, we stole that from Fort Riley and said, here's what right kind of looks like if you're developing a local agreement with a local university and how you could do it. We are trying, one of the things that we're trying to reinstitute with this talent management is she's trying to develop an internship program, specifically a management intern program. We had one years and years ago. It didn't work out because of issues, but it's something that everyone asked me for it, John. I mean, it get all the time. Like, we're going to bring the internship program back. Like, yes, I'd love to. We've got about 9,000 legal hurdles to get over, but once we kind of blow through some of that, I think we'll be able to get one in place.
Yeah, Navy's kind of in the same boat, I think, from a centralized standpoint. At least there's a few small things happening in local, kind of like the Fort Riley situation. So, okay, last thing I want to talk about is kind of your perspectives from your world. Where do you see family morale, welfare, and recreation going in the next 3 to 5 years? What's the next hurdle, challenge, beam of light, of hope? So, Joe, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll finish with JJ on that one.
I think we're moving to a more connected, data-driven, and soldier-centered model. Now, this is just coming from what I'm seeing. I think there's going to be more 24/7 access, more outdoor and functional fitness, probably more integration into what is H2F, the holistic health and fitness, the Army mission for soldier performance. I think, the better technology is moving fast and it's coming strong. So I think we're going to tap into that, especially in the AI. A stronger focus on prevention in the Army. I think we're starting to see that, and strengthen soldiers and family before the stress becomes a crisis. I think they're really trying to get ahead of that with the MWR programs, because they know that it works. So I think it's going to be a lot of data, technology, and soldier-centered model is probably going to come down the road in the next 3 to 5 years.
That's interesting, that more holistic approach. And hopefully, and I can only speak for the Navy, but even the quality of life services kind of work in stovepipes. We don't cross over as much, but I'm seeing, as I was going out, that more integration of those quality of life programs and more connection versus stovepipe. MWR and childcare always have been kind of linked, but then you get into the social services and housing and medical. I mean, all those things make a better soldier and support their families. So I'm glad to hear that. JJ, take us home.
Yeah, I think what Joe hit on it, and you hit on it too. I think one of the things is we've been chasing the ability to have some sort of predictive analysis of so get left of boom, right? And especially in that prevention space. Hard because the fact that we have 242 fitness centers, does that contribute to readiness? Sure, I guess. Can I prove it? No. Can I prove that having our fitness centers open 24/7 improves soldiers' fitness? I think it does. Can I prove it empirically? No. It's the age-old question is, well, how do I know that what I'm doing? But I think we're getting to the point now with the IT tools that we have, and the ability to see ourselves, and the ability to see what our customers want and what our customers need, marry those two up, and then start delivering services and programming that is a little bit more targeted. And that's where we need to be. I think also, we're going to get into the more creative programming space, where we really focusing this year a lot on programming, heavy on programming, because I think that's where it is. And we don't need brick and mortar to program. We've proven that. So let's get out of our comfort zone of doing an arts and craft, in a studio, and where else can we deliver those programs to get them to where the soldiers and their families are, and not to us. And the ability to predict then what it is that we need that actually gets in front of any problems that we may have from a predictive analysis, I think is going to be huge. And we're driving a lot of our IT solutions towards that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome stuff. I want to thank you guys so much. We could talk forever, and maybe we don't need a podcast to do so. We should just have a virtual cup of coffee every once in a while. So, but that's it for today on the front line. Thanks again to JJ Love and Joe Cavanagh, our amazing guests, and their amazing story here today that they shared with us. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, for another great episode. Next week, we are going to talk with a father and son who are in the business. One works at headquarters at Navy, and the other is an MWR director in Rota, Spain, the Kubaleskis. So really good story, and can't wait to talk with them. So on behalf of DPRS Media and On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, I'm John Prue, and we are out here.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
This year, we didn't just attend an event. We became part of something bigger. IRPA 2026 brought together leaders, innovators, and community builders, all united by one mission: to strengthen parks, recreation, and the people they serve. For DPRS Media Network, it was an honor to join IRPA 2026 and take part in meaningful, real-time conversations, capturing stories and amplifying voices that matter. To IRPA, thank you for creating a space where collaboration thrives and the future of parks and recreation is shaped together. We extend our deepest gratitude to Amelia and all our partners who made these live interviews possible. IRPA 2026 wasn't just an event, it was a reminder that when communities connect and stories are shared, impact follows. From all of us at DPRS Media Network, thank you, IRPA. Thank you, partners and sponsors. We're honored to stand with you and excited for what's next. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.